Tavai Vasmi, Na Jivami Tavevina, Iti Vidya Devitvam, Naimam Charanantikam. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam class on this glorious day of Radhashtami, appearance day of Srimati Radharani. Speaking on Radharani is not an easy topic. Suppose somebody was supposed to speak, I don't know what happened, so I got wheeled in, so I will try my best to glorify Radharani on our appearance day. So, Prabhupada repeatedly says that if you want to know how Krishna behaves or to understand Krishna, one has to watch just other living entities. Just see other human beings, how they behave, and same qualities are present in Krishna. So we living entities, we are pleasure seeking. We always want to enjoy. We have that enjoying propensity. Don't we all? We all want to enjoy. Similarly, Krishna also wants to enjoy. But our enjoyment is perverted enjoyment. Our enjoyment is based on raga and dvesha. But still, the enjoying propensity is there in us. Similarly, Krishna also, this enjoying propensity in us, the perverted enjoying propensity in us, actually comes from Krishna, because he is the one who originally has that enjoying propensity. Krishna is Param Brahma. So when he wants to enjoy, he's not going to enjoy like us. Our enjoyment, as I mentioned, is based on raga and dvesha. What is that verse from Bhagavad Gita? Ichha dvesha samudvena dvanda mohena bharata. Our enjoyment is based on ichha and dvesha, this duality. We like to satisfy our senses, and if our senses are not satisfied, then we become dvesha, angry. That's how we enjoy, the conditioned living entities enjoy. And through these dualities, the Maya, we are all kept under delusion. But on the other hand, Krishna, he is not kept under illusion. He is, as Arjuna addresses him, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam. He is Param Brahma. He is supreme. So if he wants to enjoy, how does he enjoy? And also he is called Atmaram. He is self-satisfied. So he doesn't need a secondary object to give him enjoyment. We need a secondary object to derive enjoyment. But Krishna is Atmaram, self-satisfied. He doesn't need a secondary object. He's not dependent on a secondary source for enjoyment. Vyasadeva, in the first verse of Bhagavatam says, Janmadasya yatonvaya itaratas charteshva abhijna swarat. He uses the word swarat. He is independent. He is not dependent on somebody else to derive happiness. He is swarat. He is independent. But we are dependent entities. We need something else. We need a phone or whatever, the material things, we want to derive our happiness from, or we need a wife or children to derive that happiness. But Krishna doesn't have that need. He's Swarat, he's independent. He's Atmaram, self-satisfied. So when being self-satisfied, being Swarat, when he wants to enjoy, how he enjoys? He expands himself, he expands his pleasure potency into his halagini shakti, the pleasure potency, into the gopis. He expands himself as he expands his pleasure potency into the gopis, and through these gopis he enjoys the reciprocal loving relationship. And of these gopis, there's one person who's dominant, who's predominant, and that person is Srimati Radharani. She is the predominant gopi. So when Ramananda Roy was discussing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy, what is the sadhana sadhava tattva? What is the goal of human life? How one can succeed the human form of life? So Ramananda Roy first response is the verse on Varnashram, Varnashram Charita Pumsam. He quotes that verse. So for the conditioned living entity, the goal of life is Varnashram. Through that Varnashram process, he can be purified and then he can achieve his ultimate goal. That's the first response Ramananda Roy gives. But Mahaprabhu says there must be something more than that. Give me something more. And then Ramananda Roy says, well, there's nothing more than Varnashram, this is it. And then Mahaprabhu insists, no, there should be more. And then Ramananda Roy says, okay, the next one is the Shanta Rasa, loving Krishna through the Shanta Rasa, through the Rasa of peace. And Mahaprabhu says, no, there's something more than that. And then he says, worshipping Krishna through Vatsalya, Sakya and Madhurya, through parental affection, through friendship, and then he says Madhurya, through loving, conjugal loving affection. And then he says, okay, there should be more. There's something more than that. Then he says it's the conjugal relationship of the queens of Dwaraka. The queens of Dwaraka. They are engaged with Krishna in a conjugal relationship. And then he says there should be something more than that. And then Ramananda Roy says the worship of the gopis of Vrindavan, the Vrajavadus of Vrindavan. And that's the topmost. He says that's the topmost. There's nothing more than that. That is the topmost. And then Mahaprabhu says, there must be something more. There should be something more. And Ramananda Roy is perplexed. And he says, well, you know everything. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're making me speak these words. So I'm just reflecting your mood, even though I'm not qualified. And these topics are very esoteric. Even though I'm not qualified to satisfy you, I'm reflecting your mood. And then he describes that in Rasa Leela, Krishna is dancing with 16,000 gopis. And Krishna is in the middle, and there's 2 gopis on each side. And each of the gopis feel that Krishna is just dancing with them. And these 16,000 gopis are dancing in a circle. And then Ramananda explains that in the middle of the circle, there is a gopi, which Krishna is dancing with her alone. And that gopi is Radharani. So, through the agency of Ramananda Roy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals Radharani. And not just reveals, she also establishes her supreme position. That even though there is 16,000 beautiful cowherd girls dancing with Krishna, Krishna prefers to be in the center with Radharani. So that's how Radharani is glorious. She is the expansion of his own Haladini Shakti, and of all these Haladini Shaktis, she is the prime. Here, Sukadeva Goswami goes to tries very hard to prevent uttering or revealing Radharani. There are many reasons given. One of the reasons given is that if he chants Radharani's name, he will end up in ecstasy that he won't be able to move forward. That's one of the reasons given. The other reason is more appropriate to us. Because we are not in a state where we utter Radharani's name and we go into ecstasy and then we can't speak. We are not in that state. So the other explanation given is the tattva of Radharani, the information about Radharani is not cheap. It is very sacred. It is very pure. It is very precious for a living entity to attain. So if this information is easily revealed, what happens? The living entity in the conditioned state would either understand Radha and Krishna's intimate pastimes as cheap cheap activities, or what a mundane a boy and a mundane girl experience, which we see in India. People say things, oh, Krishna is just dancing with Radharani. He's not, he's unchaste. He's dancing with young girls. So people criticize Krishna. We have come across in India, especially the atheistic class. What to speak of atheistic class? People who even worship, who are fond of worshipping Ramachandra, they will say, oh, our Lord, look at him, he is one woman guy. He never even looked at another woman in his life. He's so chaste. On the other hand, you worshippers of Krishna, you worship Krishna, who is a devotee. He is hanging out with other wives of other men. So they criticize Krishna. They speak badly of Krishna and Radharani. So from preventing from happening, Sukadeva Goswami is very careful disclosing Radharani. The other reason is, even for devotees, to jump into the pastime of Radharani immediately is not beneficial, because what will happen? We will take things for granted. We will become sahajiyas, which we see all the time. As soon as Mahaprabhu disappeared from this planet and his associates disappeared from this planet, there's a huge uprise of sahajiyas. Sahajiyas means people who claim to be devotees, but they take these pastimes lightly. That's why they are called sahajiyas. So from preventing the sadhakas from becoming sahajiyas, to protect them, these topics are kept in high esteem, or not easily revealed. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to traverse through 9 cantos before we come to the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It's especially mentioned, the 5th canto is designed in such a way, it is so complex that people who are reading 5th canto will just buffer out. There's too much information, I can't read anymore. So they won't be able to proceed. So it's a kind of a preventative mechanism put in, so people don't just jump into the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So that's why it is recommended. We are sadhakas, we don't understand the Radha and Krishna tattva, the relationship, their mood, their loving exchange. We don't understand the concept of prema. It is way beyond our intelligence, so we don't understand. So that's why we follow the sadhana process, where we read Bhagavad Gita, we try to understand Bhagavad Gita. Jananivas Prabhu, the head pujari in Mayapur, he told my friend Vidwan Prabhu, I take a lot of guidance from him. At least I used to take when I was living in Mayapur. So Jananivas Prabhu told Vidwan Prabhu that you read Bhagavad Gita repeatedly. So by doing that, eventually you will be able to visualize or see or understand the feet of Radharani in Bhagavad Gita. And it is revealed in Bhagavad Gita by reading Bhagavad Gita, Radharani's feet is revealed. And that's what Jananivas Prabhu told Vidwan Prabhu. So what it means is, one has to first understand their position. One has to understand the Sambandha Gyan before we jump into Radha and Krishna. The Sambandha Gyan is revealed in Bhagavad Gita. First, we need to understand who we are. The initial instructions of Bhagavad Gita: we are not this body, we are spirit soul, and then we are servants of Krishna. These are the sadhana information one has to understand. Even before the sadhana the Sambandha information, what to speak of us understanding that we are spirit soul, we have to also understand that we are contaminated by Icha and Dvesha. We are not just spirit soul in a pure state, we are actually in a contaminated state. That is our position now. We are in a contaminated state. So unless we understand that we are in a contaminated state, we are not going to purify ourselves. First know where we are, then we can go to the next step. So first knowledge is that we are contaminated. We are contaminated by Icha and Dvesha, and we are controlled by these two. One has to purify ourselves, then the next. So one has to understand the Sambandha Gyan, and one has to understand the Prayojana. And what is Prayojana? Prayojana is Radharani. The ultimate Prayojana is Radharani. Because she is the one who is serving Krishna. Krishna doesn't take service from anybody else. Because nobody else is as loving as Radharani. So she is the medium of service to Krishna. So our Prayojana for a devotee is to attain the service of the servant of the servant of the servant of Radharani. So that is our Prayojana. So one has to understand the Sambandha and the Prayojana. And then we can be properly situated in our Abhidaya, or the process, knowing the goal. The goal is to be servant of Radharani. If you look at all the gopis, the immediate associates of Radharani, they are not trying to serve Krishna directly. They are serving Radharani. Lalita and Vishaka, they comb Radharani's hair, they dress her, they decorate her, so that Krishna can enjoy her company. So they are all serving Radharani. So especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas, be in the mood of Mahaprabhu, our Prayojana is to attain that position. Generally, spiritualists, any common spiritualist, their Prayojana is to get out of the material world. Dukhalayam ashashvatam, yes, good. We understand this material world is not a great place. So every spiritualist, their goal, Prayojana, is to just achieve liberation. Even the Buddhists, or the Shankarais, the Mayavadis, they all want to escape the cycle of life and death. So that they make that as their Prayojana, and then they just work towards attaining liberation. But devotees who are coming under, had the good fortune of coming under or taking shelter of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, initiated by Mahaprabhu, our Prayojana is not about just getting out of this material world. Our Prayojana is to achieve the service of the servant of the servant of the servant of Radha Krishna. So that is our goal. So having that goal in mind, then we have to act on our Abhidaya, then act on the process. And the process commences by purifying our consciousness, going through the sadhana bhakti, the process of regulated bhakti. So we can't, just because our Prayojana is Radharani, service, we can't just immediately jump into the Bhagavat mark. Then we will fail. And that's why the deity worship, even the deity worship we have in the temple, even though it is Radha Krishna deities, we follow the Vidhi marg. So in Vidhi marg, the worship is done as Radha and Krishna, our deities as Radha and Krishna when we do the actual deity worship, when you're doing worshipping the deities. So through the sadhana bhakti, we gradually purify and on Prayojana, so that we can progress. We don't want to be like the Mayavadis, we just want to get out of the material world now. And our Prayojana is Radharani. So the speciality of the Sampradaya started by Mahaprabhu is to emphasize this point. What is that? Sarup Damodar says this verse where Radha Krishna Pranaya Shakti, what is that? Pranaya Vikrita Shakti Haladini Shakti. So Radha and Krishna, Radha and Krishna are one tattva. They're one tattva, but they are eternally separated so that they can exchange their loving relationship. And they are combined together as Mahaprabhu. They combine together as Mahaprabhu so that Mahaprabhu can relish the mood of Radharani. So he has come in the mood of Radharani. So one of the supreme qualities of Radharani is she is very merciful. She is very kind. And even though she is the predominant gopi, she is not interested in just her serving Krishna. She is very eager to see everyone also serving her, serving Krishna. And she is the Supreme Mother. So naturally she is very compassionate to all the living entities. So when Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Radharani, the aspect of mercy also is magnified. And he is also very merciful. And so he has given us a process through which we can all get out. We can all achieve the supreme goal of service to Radharani. And she is always engaging everyone in service of in Krishna. So taking shelter of the Sampradaya initiated by Mahaprabhu, we follow the footsteps of the Acharyas. We get to serve Radharani. One other point I forgot to mention is I was discussing the two reasons why it is not revealed. The second reason is that we have to develop our sadhana. So what happens if you don't develop our sadhana? The analogy given by the Acharyas is there's two analogies given. One is if you look at a tree, the deeper the root goes into the ground, the tree is much more stable. So if one doesn't have deep understanding of the philosophy and just jumps to trying to understand Radha and the gopis, it means the foundation is not strong. And as soon as there is any calamities, immediately the tree falls. For example, banana tree. It doesn't have strong root. Now if there is just a simple wind, the tree falls down. But on the other hand, the banyan tree, which is full of roots, doesn't matter. A strong wind blows, it's very stable. Similarly, we knowing our prayojanas, Radharani, we can't just jump to the intimate pastimes. We also have to develop our foundation of sadhana bhakti, strong. And the devotional service is described as bhakti lata. It's a creeper. It's a delicate creeper. And this creeper, if it takes shelter of a strong tree, then it can go all the way to the top and achieve the service of Radharani. So us living entities who have very delicate creeper, our bhakti, should take shelter of the sampradaya, which is the strong tree, and holding on to the tree, then we can achieve the service of Radharani. These are the means, the abhidaya aspect to achieve Radharani. It's not, we can't imitate the Brajavasis and immediately start engaging in this, discussing the intimate pastimes of Radharani, yelling out Radhe Radhe. These are not something what we should be doing, even though it's kind of penetrated into our society. We in kirtans we just sing Radhe Radhe. That's not our mood. Even if you read or listen to Prabhupada, there was never once where Prabhupada just addresses her Radhe or Radhe Radhe. He is always very careful, and every time he addresses Radharani, Srimati Radhika, he always says Radharani, the Queen of Vrindavan. He's very respectful. He would never, even when Prabhupada used to take his walks in Vrindavan, the Brajavasis used to wish him Radhe Radhe, he will say Hare Krishna. He could have said Radhe Radhe, but no, he always used to say Hare Krishna. So what I'm getting at is, so we can't jump. We have to follow the strong tree of Sampradaya, how the Acharyas are carefully dealt with Radharani. But because of the shelter of this strong tree, the Kripa, as our bhakti, can ultimately achieve the service of Srimati Radhika. But we have to be careful. We don't want to become sahajas and spoil the mood. So, there's a song by Rupa Goswami, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daithe. It's customary to sing this song on Radhashtami, so we will try to sing that song. If you can bring it on your phone. Did you guys manage to get it on the phone? All good? Shita Hari Prabhu? You have it? Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, 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 Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite, Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite, Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite, Taruni Mandala Mahite, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Damodara Radhi Varadana Veshe, Hari Nishuddha Vrindavi Dineshe, Damodara Radhi Varadana Veshe, Hari Nishuddha Vrindavi Dineshe, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Vrishabhanudari Navashashi Leke, Lalita Shaki Guna Ramita Vishake, Vrishabhanudari Navashashi Leke, Lalita Shaki Guna Ramita Vishake, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Karuna Kurmai Karuna Bharite, Sanaka Sanatana Bharita Sharite, Karuna Kurmai Karuna Bharite, Sanaka Sanatana Bharita Sharite, Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, This is a song written by Rupa Goswami in Stavamala. Speaking on this, one of the lectures Prabhupada gave on Radhashtami, it's funny that on Radhashtami Prabhupada gives a lecture on Ramcharitmanas. And then he says, we are not qualified to hear, discuss in details. So actually he speaks Ramcharitmanas on Radhashtami. And then he sings few lines from this song. And then he says, only Rupa Goswami can understand Radharani and not us. So we're just repeating the words of Rupa Goswami. And then he gives purport on this poem. So Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Radharani is glorious. She's not an ordinary girl. In India, Radharani is considered an ordinary cowhead girl. She's described, and even other sampradayas, even within our sampradaya, there was a conversation between Shivas Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit. Of course, that conversation happened to emphasize the importance of Radharani in Madhya Leela, where Shivas Thakur says, "Oh, she's just a village girl. Why do you worship a village girl?" Shivas Thakur says, and Gadadhar Pandit refutes that. So here you can see Rupa Goswami. He's not considering Radharani as an ordinary girl. He's telling Radhe Jaya Jaya, all glories to Radharani, all glories to Radharani. And Madhava Daite, lover of Madhava. So if somebody wants to understand Parakya Rasa, it's a bit of an esoteric pastimes. The word Madhava Daite is quite esoteric. She is the lover of Madhava. Madhava means a husband of goddess of fortune. So she is the lover of the husband of goddess of fortune. So if you kind of analyze a bit, you can see that this Parakya Rasa Parakya Rasa means the unmarried relationship between a boy and the girl, Krishna and Radharani, is revealed subtly. So this Madhava Daita word is accepted by all the acharyas. But when we hear the pastime where Mahaprabhu defeated Keshav Kashmiri, he uses a similar simile or example where he calls he uses the word Bhavani Bharta. He calls Shiva husband of Bhavani, and Mahaprabhu corrects him and says that's wrong poetry, because Bhavani means wife of Bhava. Wife of Bhava means Bhavani, and Bharta. So you don't need to add the word Bharta because there's two husbands there. It makes it wrong. But here the acharyas allow it because Radharani is not Parakya Rasa. I usually don't speak on these intimate things. Anyway, so here Madhava Daita, so here it is accepted, whereas in Mahaprabhu defeated Kashmiri, where the Bhavani Bharta is used. So she is the lover of the husband of goddess of fortune, Madhava. Gokula Tarani Mandala Mahite. She is so Gokula Tarani, she is the worshipable by all the young girls of Gokula. Damodar Rati Vardhana Veshe. She dresses so exquisitely. She captures Damodar. Damodar Rati. It means one who binds Krishna by her beauty. And her beauty is not like ordinary beauty of us, her living entities. And her beauty even captures Damodar. There's only two people who can bind Damodar. One is Mother Yashoda, which he allowed to bind him, the Damodar Leela. But here, he doesn't need to allow, he is automatically bound by the beauty of Radharani. So you can imagine how beautiful he is. Hari Nishkuta Vrindavipinesha. She is captured, or she captures Hari Nishkuta Vrindavipinesha, the queen of Vrindavan. She captures Lord Hari. Vrishabhanu Dadi Nava Shashi Leke. Again, Radharani's appearance is quite mystical. She didn't appear, when we, this is an argument for people who say she's just an ordinary girl. She didn't appear like ordinary human beings. She didn't take birth from a womb, like an ordinary person. Vrishabhanu, the father of Radharani, he found her lying in a lotus, a little baby girl lying in a lotus. And then Vrishabhanu didn't have any children, so he found this beautiful girl lying in a lotus. He brought her to Kirtida, Sundari, and then they accepted her as their daughter. So she didn't appear like normal living entities. Even Krishna sometimes is described, even though Krishna also appears in a very mystical form, but it says that he entered first into Vasudev's mind, and then he entered into Devaki's heart, and then he appeared next to Devaki. Here there is no, Radharani doesn't even go through Vasudeva or Vrishabhanu or Kirtida. She just appears on a lotus. And she is Navashashi Leke. And when Vrishabhanu saw this beautiful girl, her face was like a Navashashi, beautiful new moon. Moon is a beautiful new moon. Lalita Shaki Guna Ramita Vishake. And Lalita and Radharani. And Karunam, very merciful. So he's invoking the compassion of Radharani. Karuna Kurumai, Karuna Barite, and he's requesting Radharani for her service in our behalf. And then Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite. So Rupa Goswami says, so these descriptions, I haven't made it up myself. These are actually described by great personalities like Sanaka and Sanatan. So don't consider Radharani as some simple village girl. Her glories Vedic knowledge. So if they are glorifying Radharani, she is not an ordinary girl. So Rupa Goswami again emphasizes this point. So I will stop here. If you have any questions or comments, so we have 5 minutes before the conch. Or if anybody else wants to share any pastimes. There are 90 monks, so I can't make it brief. It's a nice meditation. So base of the large toe of her left foot is a mark of a Balikon. Don't ask me what are the significance, I don't know. She has a Balikon, and below that is a mark of a disc. And below the disc is an umbrella, and below the umbrella is a bracelet, and there's a vertical line going from the middle of the feet between Vrindavan. They can see Krishna's footmark, and then they can see in the pastime that after some time you can see that she spent intimate time with Krishna. Of course, in the purport also Prabhupada says the envy exhibit their right foot. Large toe of her right foot is a conch shell, and below that a spear. at the base of the small toe of a right foot. Third, fourth, and small toe on the heel is a fish. We got 1 more minute for the conch blows.